The rain whispered against the glass walls of La Lumiere, the kind of French restaurant where time itself seemed to pause. Inside, warm light glowed across crystal glasses and white linen, the soft murmur of conversation blending with the distant hum of a string quartet. At a corner table sat Ethan Ward, 33, sharp-suited and sharper-eyed. Every line of his posture was deliberate, disciplined, detached. The kind of man who measured patience in minutes and kindness in silence. He checked his watch again. He didn't believe in blind dates, especially not the kind arranged by his mother. But this one was different. Grace Ward, 68, had always been his compass in quiet disguise. And now, with her body failing her one organ at a time, she had only asked him for this one favor. Meet her, Ethan. Once. That's all I asked. So here he was, not out of hope but duty. 20 minutes. He'd promised himself. No more. At 7:12 p.m., the restaurant door opened. She stepped in, brushing raindrops from her umbrella. Lily Harper. Her dress was simple, dark green. Her hair loosely twisted, framed a face unpainted but luminous with quiet confidence. When her eyes met his gray-blue and calm, she smiled, not the kind meant to impress, but the kind that said, "I see you anyway." Ethan stood, polite, distant. "Ms. Harper?" "Lily," she said softly. "Ethan," he replied, pulling out her chair. When they sat, silence filled the space like a familiar old friend. "I know this probably isn't your thing," Lily said finally, her tone light. "Blind dates, especially the kind your mom arranges." He glanced up, brow raised. "She talks about you, you know," she went on. "I feel like I already know your coffee order and how you organize your socks." Ethan blinked. "That sounds unsettling." She laughed, warm, real, not nervous. "Don't worry. I'm not a stalker. I volunteer at the clinic with your mom. I teach 3rd grade. Her voice was unadorned, her words grounded. There was no pretense, no flirting. "I didn't come here to impress you," she said plainly. "I didn't dress up, I didn't Google you, and I don't have a 5-year plan to win you over. I came because your mother asked me to, and I trust her judgment more than I trust dating apps or fate." He found himself watching her closely, not because he was intrigued, but because he didn't know what to make of someone who wasn't trying. So he stayed. Outside, rain softened to a mist. Inside, something began to thaw. "So, Mr. CEO," Lily said, resting her chin on her hand, "what's your day like? Before or after you cancel a dozen meetings?" Ethan allowed a small, unexpected smile. "You mean before or after I fire someone and read 30 pointless emails?" She laughed, bright and unguarded. "I knew it. Emails. Always the real villain." For the first time that night, he found himself laughing too, quietly, almost unwillingly. "And you?" he asked. 3rd grade sounds chaotic." "It's peaceful," she said. "If your idea of peace involves 28-year-olds arguing about whether Pluto is still a planet." He chuckled. "It's exhausting," she admitted. "But I love it. Kids are honest. They don't care about titles or status. They just want to be seen." Something about that sentence landed in him like a soft weight. "They trust you?" he asked. "They trust whoever shows up and stays," she said simply. He looked down at his glass. The words echoed somewhere deep, a part of him that had forgotten what it meant to stay. "One of my boys saves half his lunch for his baby sister." Lily continued quietly. "Another girl sleeps through class because she's up all night helping her mom. I can't fix everything, but I make sure they feel safe. And when that's not enough," she smiled faintly, "I still show up the next day." He didn't respond, couldn't. It had been years since anyone's words had disarmed him like that. When the waiter cleared their plates, Lily asked for a to-go bag. Ethan watched, puzzled, as she packed her untouched meal. Then she stood, crossed to the window, and opened it slightly. Across the street, under the scaffolding, a homeless man huddled against the cold. She stepped out into the drizzle, crouched, and handed him the bag. No speech, no pity, just quiet care. When she returned, Ethan's world, the one built on precision and profit, felt strangely small. For the first time, he forgot to check his watch. Later, beneath the awning, rain still fell like silver threads. "Can I give you a ride home?" Ethan asked, She hesitated. That's kind, but I'll take the train. The wind caught her hair. He didn't insist, only held the umbrella above them both until she finally nodded. Okay, she said softly. Just this once. The drive was silent, not awkward, just steady. When he dropped her off at a modest brick building, she turned with that same steady smile. Thank you, she said, for the ride, and for not leaving right away. Before he could reply, she was gone. He told himself he wouldn't see her again. He was wrong. The next morning, in East Harlem, Ethan stood at a potential construction site when laughter drew his attention. Beyond the fence, children ran across a cracked schoolyard, and there she was, Lily, surrounded by small hands and bigger smiles. A brown-haired girl in a pink jacket sat in her lap, her legs curled unevenly beneath her, a walker nearby. When the girl spotted him, she grinned. That's the man from last night, Miss Lily. Within minutes, Ethan was surrounded. Stickers on his suit, tiny fingers tugging at his sleeve. Lily laughed as a little girl, Anna teased. You don't look so serious in person. He stayed far longer than planned. Long enough to help a boy build a crooked block tower, to listen to a shy voice ask if he knew Taylor Swift. When class ended, Ethan pulled out his wallet. I'd like to make a donation, he said. But Lily stepped forward, laying her hand gently on his. Don't, she said. Not like this. Don't buy your way in. If you want to help, show up. Be real. The word stung, not cruelly, but truthfully. He nodded, pocketing the money. For the first time in years, humility didn't feel like weakness. That night, curiosity got the better of him. He had a quiet background report run. Not to invade, just understand. What he found stopped him cold. Lily Harper, degree in economics, top of her class. Accepted into an elite analyst program. Withdrew 2 weeks before starting. Became a teacher. Foster guardian to 2 children, one of them Anna. She had once been engaged to a venture capitalist Ethan knew by reputation. A man of charm and cruelty. She left him 6 months before the wedding, quietly, permanently. She could have had his world, money, travel, power, but she had chosen something harder. Purpose. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt something like admiration that wasn't tied to success. He didn't call her. He simply sent an anonymous grant, a full year of funding for her special needs classroom. He thought she'd accept it quietly. He was wrong again. 3 days later, Lily appeared in his marble lobby, soaked from the rain, holding the letter. You paid for this? She demanded, eyes bright with frustration. He hesitated. It was anonymous. Not anonymous enough. He said nothing. You meant well, she said, voice trembling with restraint. But this isn't how you help. You don't fix lives like spreadsheets. You ask. You listen. Her disappointment cut deeper than anger ever could. She turned and walked out into the drizzle, the envelope still in her hand. For a long time, Ethan stood there, surrounded by glass and silence, wondering for the first time what giving really meant. At 5 a.m., the hospital call came. Mr. Ward, your mother's condition has worsened. Minutes later, Ethan was pacing outside the ICU, tie half knotted, breathing uneven. The machines inside beeped steadily as doctors spoke in quiet tones. He felt powerless, a sensation foreign and unbearable. Then a voice, Ethan. He turned. Lily stood at the end of the hall in a simple sweater, eyes soft. She didn't speak. She just walked past him and into Grace's room. Through the glass, Ethan watched as Lily took his mother's hand and began to hum. A lullaby. Familiar. Gentle. Grace's strained breathing steadied. For the first time that night, she smiled in her sleep. And Ethan, the man who never cried, did. He turned away, shoulders trembling, the sound swallowed by the sterile air. She had been there all along. Not for reward, not for appearance, just because she stayed. 2 weeks after his mother's crisis, the air in Ethan's penthouse still carried her scent. Lavender and old books. Grace Ward had survived the scare, but her body was growing weaker. Each visit left Ethan quieter, his confidence chipping away one truth at a time. She still smiled at him, though, teasing softly. "You finally met someone who makes you human again." He didn't answer, but the way he lingered after visiting hours said enough. Days became weeks. Ethan started showing up at Lily's classroom again, not with checks or promises, but with time. He fixed broken desks. He read stories aloud, his deep voice making the children giggle. He brought pizza on Fridays and stayed after class to help clean up. At first, Lily kept her distance, polite, cautious. But slowly, her guard softened. One afternoon, while he untangled a box of crayons, she said quietly, "You're different lately." "I'm learning," he replied. "Learning what?" "That staying doesn't mean losing." Her smile was small, but it stayed. Then came a night everything almost fell apart. It was late, past sunset, and Lily was walking in a home from tutoring. The streets were slick with rain. A delivery van took the turn too fast. Tires screamed. Ethan would remember that sound forever. By the time he reached the hospital, his pulse was a roar in his ears. Lily sat in the waiting room, trembling, blood on her sleeve. "She pushed me out of the way," Lily whispered. She took the hit instead. He knelt in front of her, hands shaking. "Where is she?" "They're operating." The hours that followed were a blur of antiseptic light and restless pacing. When the surgeon finally came out, his words were merciful. "She'll walk again, but it'll take time." Lily broke down, not with the neat tears of resignation, but with the raw sobs of a mother whose strength had finally run out. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, and for the first time, she didn't push him away. In the days that followed, he stayed. Through every doctor visit, every sleepless night, every whispered story meant to distract Anna from pain. When Lily tried to apologize for burdening him, he stopped her. "You think I'm here out of guilt?" he said quietly. "I'm here because I want to be." Her eyes searched his, and for a moment, she believed him. Weeks later, Anna took her first steps again. Shaky, triumphant, her laughter echoing down the corridor. Ethan was there to catch her when she stumbled. Lily's eyes met his over the girl's head, shining with gratitude too deep for words. Something changed then, not suddenly, but certainly. They began to share coffee in the mornings, sometimes in silence, sometimes laughing until tears ran down their cheeks. She showed him how to bake cookies that never turned out right. He taught her to fix a leaky faucet and failed miserably. Grace Ward watched all this from her hospital bed, smiling faintly. "I told you," she whispered one evening. "One blind date could change everything." He held her hand. "You always were impossible to argue with." "Good," she said. "Then don't argue with this either. Love her, Ethan. Don't wait until you're standing in an empty room." She closed her eyes, tired but at peace. When Grace passed a month later, Lily and Anna were beside Ethan at the funeral. Lily didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her hand in his was enough to steady him. After the service, he found an envelope tucked inside his mother's old prayer book. "For my last wish," it read in her handwriting, "build something that matters, something that gives others a reason to stay." He didn't understand at first. But then one morning, as he stood outside Lily's worn-down school building, the cracked windows, the leaky roof, the playground held together by hope, it clicked. 6 months later, the old factory at the edge of town was reborn. Bright walls, bookshelves, music rooms, an open kitchen. The Gray Center, named for his mother, dedicated to children who needed safety and families who needed hope. When the mayor asked at the opening who had inspired him, Ethan turned toward Lily and Anna in the crowd. "She did," he said simply. "They both did." The applause blurred into a hum. But Lily's smile, that stayed sharp and clear. That evening, under the soft glow of fairy lights strung across the community garden, Lily found him standing alone. "You kept your mother's promise," she said softly. "I had help." She tilted her head. "And what about your promise?" He frowned slightly. "Which one?" "The one you made to her the night she asked you to go on that blind date." He met her eyes, the corners of his mouth lifting. "I said I'd go once. And I'm thinking of going again." Her laughter broke the quiet. "Smooth, Mr. Ward. Only when I mean it." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. She froze, eyes wide. "Before you say anything," he said quickly, "this isn't a proposal. Not yet. It's a promise." He opened it. Inside was a simple gold ring, uncut and unpolished. "For now," he said, "it's just a reminder that I'll keep showing up." Lily's voice trembled. "You already have." And when she leaned forward, resting her forehead against his, the world, money, pride, distance, faded into quiet. A year later, the Gray Center was thriving. Anna ran through the halls, her limp barely visible. Ethan had traded his tailored suits for rolled-up sleeves and paint stains. Lily's classroom was filled with laughter and light. On a warm afternoon, the children gathered in the courtyard, throwing flower petals as music filled the air. No tuxedo, no aisle, just a circle of people who had learned to stay. When Lily whispered, "I can't believe we made it here," Ethan smiled and replied, "We didn't make it here. We built it." And somewhere above, if love could be measured in peace, Grace Ward was smiling too.